I've been in education for 30 years now, and this has to be the worst case of tuition I have ever been a part of. Have you ever been told a story that becomes more unbelievable the more details you get? This is one of those stories, and you need to wait till the end. So it started with a little girl who was in year 5, and I tutored her for her SATs. And she did brilliantly. She did so well that one day her aunt came to visit, and her aunt approached me and said, "Oh, could I tutor her daughter too?" So I agreed because they were a similar age. So when I started tutoring this little girl, her aunt also approached me and asked if I would tutor her son. The catch was the son was a teenager. He was in secondary school, and I don't normally tutor secondary school children. So I said to her, what I'd do is I would assess him because I had a feeling he probably had gaps in his primary school education, and that needed to be stronger. So she said, fine. And she seemed quite desperate. So I assessed him, and it turned out that that was true. There were big gaps in his primary education. I also found that it wasn't out of laziness. It wasn't that he wasn't trying hard. It was none of those things. But there were particular gaps that I didn't understand. It was like big craters almost. So I spoke to his mum and I said, I don't understand what's going on here. And then she said, well, he was born in the UK, but they traveled a lot. So he actually was schooled abroad. And then he came back and now they've got problems. And then it all made sense because he was caught between two curriculums. So he didn't actually have the foundational subjects and topics that he needed to help him do the work that he was doing now. So then I agreed with his mum that what we would do is focus on his primary work rather than his secondary work. And as the weeks progressed, he started to gain more and more confidence. And then the work in his secondary school actually got easier as we were started filling the gaps. And then his mum asked me a question that completely floored me. It sounds innocent, but what she asked was, could I help him with his school homework? Obviously, that is something parents ask, but what followed after was a revelation that I had never come across before. She handed me the homework that he couldn't do, and I looked at it, and then I looked back at her, and I looked at it again, and I said, this isn't from school. And she said, no, it's from his tuition center. I didn't even know he already had another tutor. My jaw just dropped to the floor. So he goes to the tuition center every week? I asked her. Yes, she replied. And he gets homework every week? Yes, she replied. And he can't do it? Yes, she replied. Think about that a second. So he goes to school, he can't do the work. So she put him in for tuition to help him with the schoolwork and the homework he can't do. And they're giving him homework and more schoolwork that he still can't do. So now she's hired me to help him with his schoolwork and his tuition work. Nobody had thought to ask, why can't he do the work? They've just given him more work to do. I sat there and I looked at the child, and suddenly I saw myself. Because when I was at school, my parents had paid thousands over the years for tuition. And I'd never understood why I had struggled so much in school, even though I also had tuition. And incidentally, I went to private school and they paid for me to have tuition on top. And suddenly I'm looking at this child and thinking, that's why. I had always assumed it was me, that I was incapable, that I couldn't do the work. But in reality, what had been happening was I went to school, I couldn't do the work, I had tuition, and they gave me more work that I couldn't do, and nobody actually dealt with the problem I had. Just like nobody was dealing with the problems that he had. Different child, same mistake. That day, my view of tuition changed completely. It never occurred to me that that's how tuition actually worked, because that's not how I do tuition. To me, tuition is you diagnose the problem, you find out what's causing the problem, and then you treat it. Not you find out there's a problem and then just give the child more work to do and think that's going to fix it. Tuition shouldn't be school after school. I fix the foundation and then I help parents understand where the problems are coming from. I teach the parents what I found and then I step away. Because the idea of tuition to me is the child becomes independent. They shouldn't be dependent on their tutor for years and years and years. You find the gap, you fill the gap, and then you walk away. Good tutors help a child become independent, which means they become unnecessary. Children don't normally need more work. What they need is the right work. If your child's struggling with fractions, more fractions isn't going to fix it. If your child is struggling with place value, more arithmetic isn't going to fix it. Someone needs to find the holes in the foundation, not give more homework, more schoolwork, more worksheets, just for the sake of giving the child more work to do. That's not helping. That's just more pressure. That doesn't resolve the child's problem. That fixes a problem that doesn't exist. I don't look at what children get wrong. I look at what caused them to get it wrong. Because once you find that, then you know where to begin.